In the last episode, we proved that the Synoptic Gospels corrupted Yeshua's teaching on divorce. The Torah permits divorce for multiple reasons, requires a certificate, and allows remarriage. Yeshua was condemning the abuse of putting women away without certificates, leaving them trapped. But Christianity took the Synoptics' corrupted version and built a doctrine that has destroyed millions of lives for nearly 2,000 years. When you change God's law, you don't just create theological errors. You destroy real lives, and women have borne the worst of it. The medieval nightmare, women trapped in hell. During the Middle Ages, the Roman Catholic Church, armed with the Synoptic Gospels' corrupted teaching, made divorce virtually impossible. The consequences were catastrophic. Women trapped with abusive husbands. No escape from beatings, rape, torture. The Church taught suffering was God's will. Till death do us part meant enduring abuse until one of you died. Many women were literally beaten to death by husbands they couldn't leave. Women trapped in dead marriages. Husband becomes impotent, insane, or incapacitated. Stuck anyway. Husband abandons the family. Still married, can't remarry. Husband is unfaithful with multiple women. Wife still bound. No way out. No hope. No future. Wealthy men buying annulments. While poor women suffered, kings and nobles could get their marriages annulled, declared invalid, through church corruption and bribery. Henry VIII created an entire new church because the Pope wouldn't annul his marriage. Poor women had no such option. They were just stuck. Two-tiered system, freedom for the rich, prison for the poor. Women forced into economic dependence on abusers. Couldn't work most jobs, couldn't own property, couldn't leave without being destitute. The very system that trapped them was called biblical. The Protestant Reformation. Same problem, different church. When Protestants broke from Rome, they kept the same corrupted divorce teaching. Puritans in America. Women could be divorced for adultery, but only with multiple witnesses, often required catching them in the act. Men's adultery was overlooked. Women's was a capital offense. Double standard that destroyed women's lives. Victorian era. Women trapped in marriages had three options: suffer, go insane, or die. Mental institutions filled with women driven mad by abuse they couldn't escape. Hysteria diagnosed in women, often caused by being trapped with abusive husbands. Laudanum and opium addiction epidemic among married women trying to numb the pain. The devastating consequences. Christianity's corrupted divorce teaching created multiple disasters, making adultery the only exception. The damage. Women trapped with physically abusive husbands. Not adultery, can't leave. Women abandoned by husbands. Not adultery, still married. Women with alcoholic, gambling, drug-addicted husbands destroying the family. Not adultery, stay married. Women whose husbands refuse to provide. Not adultery, you're stuck. The Torah would have permitted divorce in these cases. Deuteronomy 24:1 says some uncleanness, which includes various legitimate reasons. Deuteronomy 24:3 shows divorce for detesting her, not adultery. The Christian version trapped women in situations the Torah never intended. Making remarriage adultery. The damage. Women finally escape abuse, can't remarry, forced into poverty. No male covering, no support. Forced into prostitution to survive. Children grow up fatherless because mom can't remarry. Women shamed as adulteresses for trying to have a normal life after divorce. The Torah explicitly permits remarriage after legitimate divorce. Deuteronomy 24:2. The divorced woman goes and becomes another man's wife. This is not called adultery. It's treated as a legitimate marriage. The Christian version made women permanent outcasts for doing what the Torah permits. Banning divorce completely. Mark and Luke's versions created absolute prison. No escape for any reason. Even adultery doesn't free you in the strictest interpretation. Women have literally been murdered by husbands they couldn't leave. Churches that followed this literally destroyed countless lives. This completely contradicts Torah, which explicitly permits and regulates divorce. Ignoring the certificate requirement. The original problem Yeshua addressed: men putting women away without certificates. Women legally trapped. Can't remarry, can't prove divorce. Women left destitute. Christianity's version created the same problem in reverse. Made divorce so difficult that practical separations happened without legal divorce. Women separated, but not divorced. Same legal limbo. Can't remarry, can't move on, stuck in perpetual uncertainty. The exact abuse Yeshua was condemning. Real stories of real destruction. Let me give you real examples of what this false teaching has caused. Story 1. The single mother Jane. Single mother of 3. 2 jobs, $32,000 a year. After taxes, $26,000. Her pastor: tithe first, or you're robbing God. You're cursed if you don't. But that's not even the worst of it. Jane is divorced. Her ex-husband was physically abusive, beat her, threatened the children. She finally escaped. But the church told her, "You divorced for the wrong reason. He didn't commit adultery. You're living in sin. If you remarry, you'll be committing adultery." She's 28 years old, condemned to lifelong singleness because she escaped abuse. She meets a good man, a believer. He wants to marry her, help raise her children, provide for the family. The church forbids it. You're still bound to your first husband in God's eyes. So she stays single, struggling, 2 jobs, barely making it. Her children ask, "Why don't we have a dad like other families?" She has no answer. Because the church says a man who beat her still has a claim on her life. The Torah would have freed her, given her a certificate, allowed her to remarry. But Christianity trapped her. Story 2. The elderly widow Martha, 78, $1,100 a month Social Security. She was married for 52 years to a man who was unfaithful for 40 of those years. Everyone knew. He didn't hide it. But Martha stayed. Because the church said divorce was sin. He hasn't abandoned you. You have to stay. He finally died. She was free. But the church had a new message. You can't remarry. You're too old. It's not appropriate. Just serve the Lord as a widow. She meets a widower at church, 80 years old, lonely, like her. They want companionship, to spend their final years together. The church gossips. Inappropriate. Unseemly. They should know better at their age, so they don't marry. They stay lonely. Because Christianity says even after your spouse dies, you might not be allowed to remarry, depending on your age and what others think. The Torah had no such restriction. Widows were free to remarry, even encouraged. But Christianity adds burdens God never intended. Story 3. The young family, David and Sarah, married 8 years, 2 kids, ages 3 and 5. David becomes addicted to pornography, escalates to affairs, multiple women. Sarah finds out, devastated, goes to the pastor. "What do I do?" "Pastor, pray for him. Submit more. Maybe you're not meeting his needs. Are you keeping yourself attractive? Are you available to him?" She tries. Nothing changes. He continues. Flaunts it. Comes home smelling like other women. She goes back to the pastor. He's not even trying to hide it anymore. "Can I leave?" Pastor: "Has he physically abandoned you? Left the home?" "No, he still lives here." "Then you can't divorce. Pray more. Have faith. God hates divorce." So she stays. The kids watch their father come and go with other women. Watch their mother cry. Learn that this is what Christian marriage looks like. Finally, David abandons them, moves in with one of the women. Now Sarah goes back. He's gone. Can I divorce him now? Pastor: Well, he's physically abandoned you. You could probably get a biblical divorce now, but you still can't remarry. He's the guilty party, so he's the one who could remarry if he wanted. But you, the innocent party, you should remain single to show your faithfulness to God. Let me repeat that. He cheated. He abandoned. He destroyed the family. But he can remarry. She stayed faithful. She tried. She suffered. But she can't remarry. This is Christianity's teaching. The guilty party gets freedom. The innocent party gets lifelong punishment. This is demonic. Story 4. The disabled man, Robert, 55, disabled, $1,200 a month disability, married 20 years, wife leaves him for another man, commits adultery openly, files for divorce. He didn't want the divorce, but she's gone. Church, you're the innocent party. You can remarry if you want. He meets a woman, also divorced, also the innocent party. They want to marry, support each other. Different pastor speaks up. Wait, how was your wife's divorce finalized? Was it a biblical process? Did the church elders approve it? No, it was just legal divorce. She filed. It went through. Then it's not a biblical divorce. In God's eyes, you're still married to her. But she's remarried to someone else. That doesn't matter. You're still bound. So Robert stays single, disabled, lonely, while his ex-wife lives with another man. And Christianity calls this honoring God's design for marriage. What this teaching really is, the devil masquerading as God. Think about what this doctrine teaches. This makes God into the devil. God demands you stay with someone who beats you. God demands you stay with someone who abandons you. God demands you stay with someone who's unfaithful, addicted, abusive. God traps you in hell and calls it covenant. God condemns you to lifelong loneliness if you escape. What God does this? This is not the God of the Bible. This is the devil masquerading as an angel of light. The real God versus the church's God. The real God, Isaiah 58, 6-7. Is this not the fast that I have chosen, to loose the bonds of wickedness, to let the oppressed go free, to share your bread with the hungry, and that you bring to your house the poor who are cast out? The church's God. Stay in bondage, stay oppressed. Give me your bread even if you're hungry. I'll curse you if you leave. The real God, James 1:27. Pure religion and undefiled before God and the Father is this: to visit orphans and widows in their trouble. The church's God. Leave widows in trouble. Tell them they can't remarry. Let them suffer alone. Yeshua, Matthew 23:4. For they bind heavy burdens hard to bear and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers. The church's version. Load people with unbearable burdens, trap them in abuse, tell them it's God's will. The body count. Let's be blunt about what this false teaching has caused. Women murdered. Beaten to death by husbands they couldn't leave. Killed trying to escape. Driven to suicide by hopelessness. Church said their blood was on their own hands for not submitting enough. Children traumatized grew up watching fathers abuse mothers. Told, this is what Christian marriage looks like. Learn that God demands women suffer. Cycle of abuse perpetuated for generations. Women's souls destroyed. Told God required their suffering. Taught that leaving abuse was sin. Believed they deserved the torture. Lost faith in a God who would demand such cruelty. Families destroyed. No escape from destructive marriages. Children damaged by the warfare. Generational trauma passed down. all in the name of biblical marriage. The contrast, what Torah actually provided. Under Torah law, certificate of divorce required, proves legal status, financial settlement provided, not left destitute, free to remarry, can rebuild life, multiple grounds for divorce, not trapped in abuse, legal status clear, no limbo, no ambiguity. Torah was realistic about human nature. Moses permitted divorce because of hardness of heart. Recognized that some marriages fail, provided legal framework to handle it justly. Protected the vulnerable party, usually the woman. God's ideal versus God's provision. Ideal, lifelong covenant marriage. Reality, sometimes it doesn't work. Provision, legal process to handle failure justly. Protection, especially for women and children. The irony. Christians caused what Yeshua condemned. Yeshua condemned men putting women away without certificates, leaving them trapped and destitute. Christianity created a system that trapped women in abusive marriages, leaving them with no certificate, no escape, no hope. Legally bound but practically abandoned. The church created the exact evil Yeshua was condemning. What Yeshua would do. If Yeshua walked into these churches today, he would do what he did in Matthew 21:12-13. He would overturn the tables, drive out the leaders with a whip, and he would shout, "My house shall be called a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of thieves. You devour widows' houses, you trap the abused, you load unbearable burdens on the suffering. You quote my words to condemn the victims. You use my name to enslave the oppressed. You've made my father look like a monster who demands women stay with men who beat them. You call this honoring marriage? You call this serving God? You serpents, you brood of vipers, how will you escape the judgment of hell? Every woman who died because you trapped her, every child who suffered because you wouldn't let their mother leave, every life destroyed because you taught a false gospel. Their blood is on your hands." Then to the people, "Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. My yoke is easy and my burden is light. If you're trapped in abuse, you are free to leave. If you're divorced and alone, you are free to remarry. If you've been told you're living in sin for escaping destruction, you are not. I came to set captives free, not to trap them in hell. Go, be free, rebuild your life, and never let these people enslave you again." The bottom line. The Torah permitted divorce for multiple reasons, required a certificate to protect the woman, allowed her to remarry and rebuild her life. Yeshua enforced this, condemning those who put women away without certificates. Christianity corrupted the teaching, creating a system that traps women in abuse, condemns victims to lifelong singleness, frees the guilty and punishes the innocent, destroys families in the name of covenant, makes God look like a demon who demands suffering. The body count is real. Women dead, children traumatized, families destroyed, faith shattered, all because the church took a corrupted text from the Synoptic Gospels and built a demonic doctrine on it. If you're in a church that teaches this, leave. If you're trapped by this teaching, you're free. God never intended you to stay in abuse, to suffer in silence, to remain alone forever because you escaped destruction. The real Yeshua came to set captives free, not to create new chains. Remember that.